In this episode of the Sam Oldham podcast, I'm joined by Joel Fearon. He represented Great Britain at the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympic Games and was a bronze medalist with the four-man bobsleigh team. Joel is also the 7th fastest man in British history over 100 metres, running in 9.96 seconds, and this is his story. Joel, thanks for joining us this morning, mate. I know we spent quite a lot of time together over the last couple of months filming with great athletes. You work for great athletes too, and we both do lots of work in schools. Yeah. We were also at that event for the Youth Sports Trust where we were essentially, we ended up being like a double salesman team and worked really well together.
Had a couple of hookers on the corner, me and you, mate. We was bringing them in. We getting attention though, weren't we?
We were.
We did a good job, mate.
Lots of attention and lots of schoolwork, hopefully, to the company. But no, Joel, I'm really excited for this one. We've had a lot of gymnasts back to back. We've had athletes from all sorts of sports. We've not had a sprinter on before on the podcast. So to start off with, mate, I actually want to know, were you fast from the get-go as a kid? Because I've got a little boy now, he's nearly 18 months old, and I'm finding it hard not to look at him and go, oh, he's quite strong,
you're gonna do it, mate.
He's going to jump. And I'm like, no, don't do it, I don't want to be a pushy parent.
You do it.
But were you always quick? Was that something that, came naturally to you?
Well, out of the box, I put, pound signs on all my kids. I'm like, looking at them going, what can you do? What can you do? All the time. So I completely understand that. I wasn't, I'd never won school sports day. I wasn't like some superstar athlete growing up. And the only reason I did sport was because sport is an area where I got praise, and having like ADHD and dyslexia, and school was a difficult place. So if you're getting praise in PE for being physical, it just sort of drawn me to that place and brought me to where I am now. But I wasn't nothing special. I wasn't, there was superstars that, you know how it is in sport. By the time someone's 10, they're already the world champion and they're already this and they got this Nike deal or whatever. That definitely wasn't me. So no, mine is all bloody hard work and long roads and, back against the wall sort of stuff. So that's how I got here.
How did you first get into athletics and sprinting?
I think I was reasonably fast. I didn't get on with football. Football wasn't for me. It just, football's quite a negative sport, especially when you don't come from a footballing background. So a lot of pressure, a lot of shouting, a lot of parents, it just wasn't nice. It wasn't a nice environment. My family aren't sporting people.
Okay.
So they wouldn't also understand that sort of thing. So I just went down to sort of my local track down in Coventry, and I was about, 15 years old when I started. Didn't really do anything before that. And, my coach said, well done. I'm better than he thought. And I thought, you know what? I'll take that better than, you know what I mean? Like I said, praise didn't come often. So the fact that I was better than he thought and he said, well done, I just carried on chasing well dones and better than he thought. So that's what it was for me. So, yeah.
And you started at 15 because, I'm from a sport where traditionally you start very, very young, right? You've got 5, 6-year-olds doing gymnastics. Is it does your daughter do a bit of gymnastics?
Yeah.
So in a sport like track and field and athletics, and particularly sprinting, how much of the makeup of a sprinter is down to the genetics that they have, and when they walk through that door or they step onto the track for the first time, does that play a very big role, maybe more so than other sports?
I think so, yeah. I think that, you do have to be athletically gifted in some respect, but as a young person, I can coach my kids to be fast from now. I can just coach them to be fast. They don't even have to be that fast, but they can win all the little local stuff, and I can do that. But I think to make it to a very high level, you do have to have, I guess, some genetics that will suit. You do have to have that, but it doesn't have to be the same, because I'm not your typical sprinter. I ran sub 10 at 96 kilos, which was 10 kilos heavier than everyone else. So I'm not your typical sprinter, but I made it work for me, and I was able to use my body in a way that ended up getting me to an end product. But I think, genetics play a big part. Normally in athletics, you start from about 8, 9, 10 years old, and then you have the running mums and dads, so they're all track fanatics, and that my parents weren't that. And that's why I started late. I said, actually, I think I'm quite good at this. I reckon I could be good. I used to play tennis, played a bit of football, did stuff like that, but that's something that I thought, okay, I maybe can be better than others at this. And it turned out I was. I was better than others.
Do you feel like that's more commonplace in like explosive sports? Because I remember going to London 2012 and Anthony Joshua being there, not starting boxing until he was 17, like 2 years before London. So do you feel like in explosive sports, maybe that piece of the pie that makes up a great athlete, more of the proportion needs to be physical, natural gifts? Maybe it's fast twitch, muscle fibres.
I think it's more cultural, to be honest with you. I think so my generation of parents weren't into sport. So it's probably the same. Well, it would be the same for Anthony Joshua. So you're only doing sport when you can physically take yourself. If no one's taking you sport, you'll do PE, then you'll go home, and if you want to go have a kickabout with your mates, but don't think that your parents are driving around Saturday and Sunday, taking you here, taking you there. That's not happening. So, a lot of people from sort of my background didn't do that. So you start when you can start. And again, athletics is one of the simpler sports. What do I need? A pair of trainers, potentially a pair of spikes. That's it. I can go and train. Again, boxing, the gym's there, get some gloves. You can work it out. Yeah. There's a coach there. So the sports that sort of like athletes like me go into are simpler ones that are simple to get into. Like, no one's taking me gymnastics at 5 years old, but my daughter, I'll take her all day. But I didn't have that experience, so I could go when I could go, and that was the avenue. But I think that there's potentially more sports I could have done, but this was the one that was that I could do, that was available for me to take part in.
You had access to.
That I had access to.
You could expose yourself to.
Exactly. And it will be a lot, like even my brother-in-law, he's the second quickest man in British history. And it's the same for him. He's ran 9:91. Exactly the same. Like, when did you start? This age? Why? Because I could take myself. I used to play football. I was quite fast on a football pitch. Eventually, I was old enough to take myself to the track. And that's what I did. And now he's also a 2-time Olympian. Just like that.
It's really interesting that you say that, Joel, because I coach gymnastics at a David Lloyd club in West Bridgford in Nottingham, which is quite an affluent area. And what I've noticed about the kids that are there is that their parents are getting them doing 4, 5, 6 different sports a week. They're exposed to so many different sports and opportunities. Like, this is the most incredible advantage, and not everybody has that. And when I look at my sport now in gymnastics, it's so expensive. And we're missing out on so much incredible talent. Where 20 years ago, when I was training at the same gym in Nottingham, we were getting all the kids from the inner city schools were coming in, and they were some of the most talented kids. We just don't get them now. It's just one certain demographic of kids that are able to afford it because of their parents, and it's quite sad for me. Is that similar in athletics or not?
Well, it is similar. Like, sport is such a business now, and it's not. I think again, back in our day, let's say, the people that were coaches, a lot of them were volunteers, and they did it because they loved it. They loved what they did. They loved to coach. They were out there day in, day out doing that. But now it's more of a business. So there is more money involved. So you do have to have money to take part, which does mean that we will lose a lot of our very best athletes here in the UK will be lost. And a lot of them go into football, and there's a lot of great, but that's not their sport. They're just there. There's other things that they could excel at, and if they don't make it in this, then they just sort of fall off the cliff, and it is a bit of a shame, but sometimes such is life. And I think we're getting to a point where I guess parents do need to see their children for all of themselves, and not just sort of what they do in academically, but go back to what they can do outside of school and where they can shine, because we're in an environment where we see parents who invest in their children, but there's a lot more that don't.
Do you think, Joel, the general public, being someone that's not a sprinter and not that fast, I would look at sprinters and go, surely they're just born fast. In the same way that I would look at like a singer on the X Factor. You can sing. And then the singer's there going, I've worked my whole life for this moment. And I'm going, no, you haven't. You can sing or you can't sing. But then I've spoke to people that have said, no, you can teach anyone to sing. And I'm like, really?
That's mad.
Because I can't sing.
That's mad.
But You know, we had that little conversation at the beginning where you said,
Yeah.
look, you could give me all of my children and I can make them fast.
Yeah.
You know, do you think there's a bit of a misconception from the general public that these people that sprint on the TV at the Olympic Games, they're just born that way?
Yeah.
When actually, I've had that conversation with you, and there's so much training that goes into it.
There is. And the thing is also, it's about understanding your body. It's understanding where areas you lack and how to create that. Like, there's not many very athletes that are born the finished product. Like, there is some little superstars that come through, but generally, it's all very close until a certain point where somebody figures it out and ends up getting ahead of everybody else and left in the record books, where others, so many others, didn't get the opportunity to figure it out or didn't have the coaching to figure it out. And like I said, I've never won sports day, mate. Wasn't that guy? I can't even remember the guys that won it, but it weren't me. And then to go and be like one of the fastest, I'm on Diamond Leagues, like top 8 in the world at one point. Like, I'm thinking, look at that. If I can do that, people can do that. Like, that's possible. Never won, like, English schools growing up. Never won. There's all these superstars. Don't even know where they are now, mate. So for me, there's definitely, like, there's a way to get to wherever you want to and finding out what your ceiling is. And often it's a lot higher than you originally thought.
Well, what's interesting about athletics, I think, is that even for football, right? Football is the most participated sport in our country. It's like our national sport. But you still need a ball. You still need a pitch. You need other players to play against. Everyone runs. From the moment that you're born and you start walking and you start moving faster.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it with my little boy now. He's like running round. He's very unstable, but he's running. So there's so many people that you are having to compete against when you're starting out. It's interesting that, like you say, most people in this country get filtered into football, but actually, it's running and athletics. That's the one thing that everybody does, right? At some point in their life, you're gonna run,
and it's tricky, right? Because you can get people that come out of a different sport and come in and go like we had one point, like we had a guy called Adam Jamili who was playing football. Came and a year later went to 2012 or 20. He was 2012, I think he went to 2012. Yeah, straight to the Olympics, boom, like that. And it's that kind of sport where if that's their gift, they're never already perfect. If they come straight in, boom, 19 years old, straight to the Olympics, no messing about. Like and that's what it is. But then there's also like people like me that took me flipping 10, maybe 12 years of grafting and trying to work it out to go and run sub 10, where it took someone else a year. But I got there.
That's the main thing.
But I got there, you know.
Main thing. Joel, just tell me a little bit about when you were starting out. You started at 15.
Yeah.
Around that time, who were your inspirations when you first started sprinting? Did you have any? You know, I clearly remember at the age of 11 watching Athens Olympic Games, and there were no British guys that I could watch in gymnastics because we were not very good back then. But I clear as day remember Kelly Holmes going over with the eyes popping out of her head, and I don't know what it was, but I was super inspired by that. And I'd say, other than football and gymnastics, like athletics was probably the one sport that I would always watch when I was growing up. My dad was someone that always had sport on the TV. So if anything was on, it was always on, even if it was just in the background. Who were kind of your inspirations and people that you saw growing up, or did you not?
It was. I remember being in detention, right? I'm in detention, and I picked up a book, and it was a Linford Christie book, right? And then I opened it, and I seen him standing there, and he had his British flag, and he was in like his speed suit, like his lycra suit. I remember just sort of squinting my eyes and going, I sort of look like him. Maybe I can do that. And literally just started from there. And I think at that point I was in about year 6, and I seen that. I said, I think that's something. And it was just solely based on the shape of his body, the way he looked, his calves, his muscles. I've gone, I think I can do that. And for me, there wasn't very many, because I didn't come from a sporting household, didn't watch athletics that much, didn't watch football in my house. There wasn't a lot for me to look at and say, that fits who I could be.
Yeah.
So it was like small moments like that still stick out to me. I don't know what I was doing in detention. I don't know what I did. But then it just changed me and says, okay, I feel like I look like, and then I was reading it, and he was also like from Jamaican descent, and I was like, okay, we're the same. So that means that what he's doing, I can go and do. He's got a book, I can have a book. He's holding this British flag, I can do that as well. And it's sort of, that was the first time where I've looked at someone and thought, I can do that. I didn't know if I could do that. At the point was kind of realise how hard it was. But that's the first time I really thought, and it was just, and then I started getting into athletics, started watching all the Jamaicans running and this and that, and you know, and I enjoyed sort of watching it, and all like to see like it was because I came from Coventry, rough area, right? So it wasn't like you seen black people doing that well. Like you didn't see them shining like that. But in sport, you seen it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I don't want to be that. I want to be this. Let's be this. And then I started doing it and people are going, you're doing good. I'm like, I'm this, I'm getting there, I'm going, you know?
Yeah.
But it was that for me. And like I said, not a lot of like school was such a hard place for me that when there was a little like small hope of something, I would hold on to it with all that I had, go, okay, let's try and make this happen. Let's make my mum and dad proud. Let's do this. And that's literally and I did that my whole career. Like, you know, even when it was a case of that, you know, because I was never supported by British athletics. Because they never seen me as talented enough. They seen these people and they didn't see me. But at this point, it didn't matter. Because I was already clutching straws my whole career. So I was like, don't worry, I'm going to show you because I know what it is. Like I've came from all the way back here to be like top 10 in the country or something. It's not that far to top 1 now. That's not a million miles away at this point. And it was like that. So and in the end, when I was like ranked number 1 in the country, for me, it was like just relief. I was like, you know, around my mum was like, yeah, we did it, mum, sorted. Like, at that point, I clocked life. My brain was like, I've done that. I've become one of the fastest men in the world, one of the fastest men in the UK, running in a straight line. That means I can do anything. That means I can do absolutely anything because that's probably one of the most simplest things you can do. I broke it down to such a point where I've made it an art. I can do anything I want to do.
And when you started getting into the sport and taking it seriously and competing and potentially representing your club and GB and being exposed to these guys, because I remember when I first started watching athletics, it was a great generation of sprinters. You had like Darren Campbell, Marlon Devonish,
Uncle
Dwayne
Darren,
Chambers,
Marlon, Big Dwayne,
all of these guys that were incredibly exciting to watch. Like you said, people that you could look up to and go, oh, I can identify with that.
Yeah.
When you started, did you educate yourself on those guys? Were you exposed to top sprinters as a 15, 16-year-old? Did you see them training? Did that help?
Not really. Okay. Not really. I didn't. So when I was I would just watch it. So I remember like watching the Olympics, I used to watch the Jamaicans a lot. Used to watch the Safa Powell. Used to see how they do things. I'd like that's when YouTube started coming about, so I can start looking at training videos, see what they do, see what I can do to get better. And then when I moved to Loughborough when I was 20, I was fortunate enough to be with like some of the top guys in the UK. I was nowhere near that standard, but they allowed me to join. And that was a massive learning curve for me because then I could actually see firsthand what they're good at, where their weaknesses are, how they prepare themselves, what do you like eat, what supplements do you take, like what do you do? And I'd take bits from all of them and start putting it together and making, this is what I'm going to do. So I like what he does. He's always here early and he does this stuff. He recovers really well. Make sure we take in this bit. He does this. His ankles are awesome. What can we do to make my ankles as good as his, make them like as bouncy or as stiff or whatever? And I literally just started taking stuff from him and making my own thing. So while I was being coached, I was also trying to change my complete environment to be the best parts of all of them.
So you had a blueprint for the first time, basically, that you could follow.
Yeah, that I could follow, but as well as having a world-class coach. Yeah. So it was like, this is how they train, but this is what they do. And it was about putting those two things together. He's good at this. Why is he good at that? Why is this his strong suit? And how can I emulate that in my life? Why is this person? And I started just doing that. And I've done that my whole career. Like I do that now in business. I do it in whatever I do. What's good? Why does it work? How can I get it to work for me? It's literally how I live my life.
And what is the pathway for a professional sprinter? What does that traditionally look like? What does that? I know that you didn't follow that mold, Joel.
Yeah,
what would that traditionally look like? You know, is it a case of 15, 16, you're on the GB Athletics team and you're getting funded already? What does that kind of look like? Because it's very different in every sport. They have somewhat of a different system. And in athletics, the thing that always, when I look at it, there's so many different disciplines. Yeah. That's so many athletes to fund. That's a lot less money to go around. Yeah.
Well, it is tricky. Like normally if you're like, by the time you're, let's say, 16, 17, 18, we have like a futures program, which I work on now, which helping athletes who are of young, they have talent, they're going to come through, so that's there for them. And I think there was something like that there for them already, because you have like the under-23 World Championships and under-20 World Championships and junior World Championships. So you have all these levels where we're already winning medals every year.
Okay.
So so they have that, and they'll get like a little bit of funding and help towards their stuff and stuff like that, and kit and all those bits. But to be fair, if you make a senior team, you'll be straight on. So you make a senior team now, you're getting paid as a professional athlete by UK Sport.
Okay.
And then if you go on to win medals, again, but it's all just based on what you do. Like I said, there was athletes that came from nowhere, straight in, world-class funding, and close to an Olympic medal, and that's job done for them.
Yeah.
Where it does change, and it's not easy, but it does require you to be good young still. So you do have to be, people have to see your finished product or what it's going to look like. By like 18, 19, I want to see what that looks like. Where for me, like, people they're not finished developing yet.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't. But if you're an early developer, a lot of athletes are born early in the year. They're the October born and the September born athletes. Like, that's a lot of what track and field is. It's just buds born in October and September.
Right, okay.
Because it's just early in the year.
Yeah.
So they have that 9 months advantage physical on everybody else. And so it's just about like trying to show that light as soon as possible. Like, for example, I could coach my son is 15, he plays football, but I could coach him to go out and run very fast in 100 meters, for example. I could teach him just how to do that skill, but that doesn't mean he'd be fast. It doesn't mean he'd go on and reach the same sort of heights that I've reached, but it just means that he'd be in the radar. He'd go out, he'd probably get some funding really early, he'd probably get some stuff, and he'd have a better chance of making it to a very high level. But again, it's a little bit luck of the draw, and it's also, if your parents know what they're doing, if your coach knows what they're doing, they get to be able to create something for you. But
that trajectory.
But if you run fast early, this is what it does. Everyone gets excited. Oh, this next Usain Bolt.
It is, isn't it? Like, it's always those headlines when someone comes out of nowhere at a Europeans or a Worlds and they run a fast time. How heavy is that pressure, Joel? Like, you will have seen that with so many sprinters coming through.
Massive.
And what do you think then separates the men and the women that can handle that and continue to run fast, and the ones that really struggle to then put it together, and all of a sudden you're going, I remember them bursting onto the scene when they were 18, 19. Yeah. Now they're 25, 26, and they're still trying to get into finals. And what is that
I think
thing that separates them?
Your first performance under any kind of pressure. So if you're like, you go to an Olympic Games, your first Olympic Games, and if you go there and do better than you thought you would, your brain would tell you that you are now a championship competitor. Or if you go to a Olympic qualifier, for example, it's a big deal, and you're not supposed to qualify, but you qualify, your brain would tell you that you're a championship. I think a lot stems from that. But if you go there and you're supposed to qualify and you don't, your brain will tell you that you can't handle pressure. And then from that point, you then struggle. So every time you come to a position where, okay, everything's riding on this moment, your brain just goes back into what happened before. So you're now fighting your old self. So I think, and I always try and coach athletes, like, even when you're supposed to qualify, the amount of like that you have to take that seriously, because it forms a pattern in your mind. Like, you have to remember, like, if you balls up an Olympic qualification, you're not gonna get to do it again for the next 4 years. So now you got 4 years to think about, and then you go back to the same line. You got 10 seconds to get it right.
Yeah,
and it's just it just creates this rough cycle. Like, I know guys that got to the Olympics, knocked out round one, but they're meant to make it to the final. Get to another Olympics, knocked out round one, and they're meant to, and it just keeps going like that. And you're kind of stuck in that process, and it is tricky. But for me, the first thing you do under pressure can hold a massive weight on what you do going forward, and what you think about yourself, and who you think you are, and who people think you are. Because a lot of what people say does stick. As much as we say, I'm not bothered what they think. They say, wait until the finals. You go, yeah, wait until the finals. Like, your body feels that. But if they say, nah, he never does good in the final, then you're already like, yeah.
You're so true, mate. I did a judging qualification about 3 years ago. And I went to the guy running the course at the end, who was a judge like in gymnastics for a long time. And I like asked him about a certain situation in a competition. And he kind of like, he didn't want to answer the question. But he went, but you know, with you, Sam, like everyone always knew that you would win the warm-up, but then you'd make a mistake in the competition. I was like, so you guys were all saying this, and it's like feeding this narrative.
No.
And he just batted it off, and he wouldn't answer my question. It was about like a specific, but you're right, like what people say almost does become your identity, right?
It becomes a
and
bit
to
of a
break
narrative.
that as a cycle,
It's hard.
you have to almost, you know, you can lose people's confidence in your ability to perform under pressure in one moment. To gain that back, you maybe have to compete well 5, 6, 7 times in a row.
I don't know many athletes that get that back. I'm telling you, I don't like when it gets like that. I think it's a hard, really hard thing to get from, and I feel like you almost have to be in. You have to be able to win by miles, just to win by bloody meters. In that situation, you have to be far clear. And even when you just like I used to love a Safa Powell growing up. Safa Powell was like, he ran the most time under, he used to be the old world record holder, but he's never won an actual competition. Like he's only ever won like diamond leagues or races that don't matter, but he's never won the races that matter. He's never won the Olympics, never world championships. Fastest person in the world every single year without a doubt. No one's ever ran sub 10 more times than him. But he's never run a major competition just for that reason. Because the first time he went in, I think it was, first time I seen him was, what was before Beijing?
Athens.
Yeah. And he came as a youngster, won the heats, semis, looking cool as a cucumber, came 7th in the final, and he's never stopped coming 7th in the final. He's literally stayed there for the last 4 Olympics.
Yeah. It's one of those sports where I watch and I go, the pressure to do well, particularly with the heats and the fact that now you don't get a second chance, right? Like
no, you full start, you're out, and one wrong step, and you know about it because everything is so close. Even if like I'm supposed to make the final, for example, by a couple of hundreds, but we're talking that much, over 100 meters. So the moment I do one step that's just not as good, you automatically are under pressure because you can now feel someone that shouldn't be ahead of you. Then now the game plan's out the window. Now you're just racing him, or you're just trying to get back on track, or you're trying to get that step back, which you can't. So it is a case of that, like your execution in those moments. And even like, there's a lot of like training champs, isn't there? There's a lot of like people that like, these guys will smash you to death in training. But when it comes to a race, they can't run for toffee. Like these guys would run sub 10 all day in training, but they can't actually, when the moment counts where you need to execute what's required of you, you just can't do it, and we'll never know. I would say for the people that have ran faster than 10 seconds, there's probably 5 times that who could have ran faster, but just couldn't do it when it was required and missed their opportunity when the sun was right, the wind was right, the track was like, everything was ready, but your mind wasn't ready. Like you couldn't do that thing.
How much do you think it was an advantage now, when you look back in hindsight, Joel, that you started late at 15 and you weren't one of the top guys when you go to Loughborough at 20 and that you've had to work and you've had to look and watch and maybe you didn't have that early success like a lot of those top guys have? Do you think in the end, when you look back at your career, actually it meant that I had to really think about everything that I was doing, cross all of the T's, dot all of the I's, and maybe now that has a real positive influence on the way that you coach and the way that you approach you know, working with young athletes?
I think as a coach, it's done me a lot because I've been through a lot, I've lived a lot. Like, so when they're talking to me, I feel the emotion. I know what you're talking about. If you're struggling with something, a particular part of the race, I've been there, I've struggled with you. But one of the main things that helped me to be successful was starting bobsleigh because it gave me time. It gave me time. Like, I couldn't just be on benefits running track and field till I was 27. It couldn't work. Where bobsleigh give me the opportunity. For one, it gave me a whole winter to practice racing. Even though it wasn't 100 metres, I started to learn about how to get the most out of myself in a moment. In bobsleigh, I had 5 seconds to push. So it's half the amount of 100 metres. But it made me have to learn about how to get myself in an optimal window to be able to do that time fast and to do that. And I got to practice that every single week. Right, literally different country every week was a different competition. So I did that for 6 months of the year, and then I'd come back and I'd almost have like a bigger knowledge of myself how to get myself ready, what to do. Then I'll go back, do my training. And my preparation for racing was different to everybody's. Like what I used to do before competition, nobody does that. Nobody, I don't think anyone does it now. I used to hear about like back in the olden days, like this is how Ben Johnson used to train, or this is how so-and-so used to train. But that's literally the methods which are used were ones that are everything's so much more glamorous now, and it's all pretty and good looking, where I'm just like, I'm going to go squat 200 kilos and then I'm going to go do a sprint, or I'm going to go just prime my body in a different kind of way that got the most out of myself. And bobsleigh allowed me to practice all those things, getting wrong, getting right, and find my place that worked.
How do you get into bobsleigh, being a sprinter? Because to you might go, oh no, it makes a lot of sense because there are a lot of bobsleighers that are sprinters, but to somebody on the outside that is not well versed in sprinting, but then even more so maybe in Winter Olympics and bobsleigh, they're going, wait a minute, what? They've done a second take. This guy's doing bobsleigh and he's sprinting. How does that work? Because I was at Loughborough similar time to you, training there in the gymnastics facility, and I would walk at the top of the power base was where the EIS was, and all the physios, and you go and see the physios, and every now and then they'd have a poster on the wall that would say, are you interested in bobsleigh? Are you interested in handball? And I'd be like, are they really advertising for the GB team for this? But there was legitimately adverts for different sports. How did you first come into contact with the sport of bobsleigh?
You know what happened was my coach used to work for British Athletics, and then they needed a speed coach for an Olympics coming up, so he said, okay, I'm going to go and work with bobsleigh. But he carried on working with us, so he worked with the elite group I was with and worked with bobsleigh. And he was just like, you're not making any money. I wasn't sure. He's thinking, I don't know how fast you're going to actually be. I think this is a good way for you to, because at this point, still had my son, my wife was there. They were like, this is a good way for you to provide for your family. I know you'll be good at this, so let's have a go. And I first had a go, and it was horrible, bro. Like, bobsleigh is a horrible sport, mate. It's cold, it's rough, it's dangerous. When you start out, you're not with the golden balls drivers. You're with everyone's a novice, mate. So you're just trying to stay alive. You're in life preservation mode. So I'm just trying to. I remember ringing my wife, going, what have I done? Where I'm in some dark hole in Germany somewhere. The sunlight ain't come out for 3 days. It's freezing. It's wet. It's grey. It's snowy. Everybody's miserable. It's horrible. I want to come home. And my coach was like, "You're not going home." And I was like, "No, really, I'm done. I want to come home." He's like, "You're not going home." In the end, he took my passport off me, so I couldn't go. Couldn't go home if I wanted, right? And then, a couple of weeks later, we ended up in a place called St. Moritz in Switzerland. And it was really nice there. So the sun came out. It was snowy, but it was nice. Ski resort kind of snowy. And he would give me a little beverage every day, trying to loosen me up, being like, "You're all right, mate. Just enjoy yourself." So he'd take me out for a beverage in the evening and just trying to soften me. So you don't have to slide. Have the week off sliding. Just enjoy the environment. Go and see where you are. Go and have a look. And I think that sort of got me over another 2 weeks or so. And then we went out to New York, which was a final race. So I'm like, okay, after this, I'm finished. I'm never coming back. And to be a funded sport, we had to come top 12. But at this point, we'd only came, 18th was our highest result. So I'm thinking, and the track was rough. Anyone knows there's a track in New York called Lake Placid. If anyone knows this track is horrendous. I'm standing at the top of the track, right? And the first 17 sleds go down. And out of the 17, 13 of them all crash. So, and you're going, and you can hear this. And they're like, "Come on, lads, it's our time." Everyone's all excited. I'm like, what are we really excited about? So I remember okay, let's just get through. And we went down, and of course, we crashed as well. So, you get thinking, no way. And then they're like, okay, back to the top. So it's not you've just crashed at 100 miles an hour on concrete ice. The ice is burning all the clothes off you, getting rattled around. And then they're like, okay, back to the top. Claustrophobic, all of that. And then go, okay, let's go again. And you can't say no, because everyone's see, a bit of pressure. You're like, okay, all right, I'm a brave boy, I can do it. At this point, I'm still only 22. And we got through that week anyway. And then, don't know what happened, but in the World Championships, we ended up coming 10th. And we got funding. And for the first time in my life, I was a professional athlete. Off the back of all that shit stuff, I ended up being a professional. And that really showed me something with my life. It showed me that when things are uncomfortable, right, or it's difficult and you want to stop, at least finish it so you know what it is you did. Because if you stop in the middle, you don't know the end product of what that year was going to be. So you don't know if like basically, if I would have gone home at that point, I wouldn't be here talking to you. So it made me say, okay,
You got to see things through, right?
even though my coach was like, you're not going, and he's been a key part in my whole career, Michael. If you see it through, you'll have a clearer understanding of what it was you did or didn't do, or what decisions to make next time. So yeah, we went and got funded, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm not bathing, but I'm like, babe, you want to go out for dinner? Fancy, do you know what I mean? I'm all right now. Let's get a new car. Let's do stuff. So now I'm a funded athlete, and my life changed from there. It meant that I could train on the track as a professional, and they supported me. And I think bobsleigh was really important because they seen worth in me, what athletics didn't yet see. So they had, again, that well done that I was looking for as a young man. It sort of came back again where they're like, no, we appreciate what you've done. Thank you for sticking it out. This team is now funded based on some of your hard work as well. This is because of you. And if you wasn't here, this wouldn't be. And obviously 2 years later, we went on to get an Olympic medal with the same blokes that we were there getting rattled down, smashed up and coming, you know, do you know what I mean? So it was sort of a massive part. And they really valued me as a human. And I think that was so important to me to sort of have the moments where you wasn't overlooked. You were looked at and gone, that was good, mate, good job. And that's all I need, mate. If I get a good job, I'm good, mate. I'll crack on, I can do anything. Good job made me do anything.
It's amazing, isn't it, how just like one piece of positive feedback or just making somebody feel somewhat valued, what that does for their self-confidence and motivation. And I sometimes look at national federations and, you know, British gymnastics at the time towards the end, there were other people that I then went on to do a bit of work with, and I was like, oh my God, like this feels great. Like you really do like value me in this situation. And like that did so much for me. And I think sometimes because, and look, this is sport, right? And sport is ruthless. And when you get to that Olympic level, it is all about medals. So what have you done for me today? And what are you going to do for me in the next competition? If you don't, it's the next person through.
And also like,
and it has to be that way. I understand that. But what's crazy for me is that potentially if you don't look after those athletes or at least make them feel valued, not just for the medals, you then lose out on somebody like you working with the next generation. Or me working with the next generation because we go, screw this, you know what? I'm going to go do something else.
But I think is what's difficult about sport, and the difficult thing with me was that as a athlete, you're constantly told what's wrong with you because that's just how it is. So your coach don't come in and go, everything's amazing, this is great, this is great. He doesn't go start from the age of 5 and tell you everything that you're great up all the way to 35. He don't do that. He's going to come in and go, okay, last week this wasn't good. Let's sort that out. This wasn't good. And you being able to balance that. When you're young, I think you're more resilient. A bit resilient to that. You can go, all right, yeah, come on. Because you know you got somewhere to go. But when you've started doing stuff and people are telling you like, that's not good enough, that's not good enough, that's not good enough. And you also know yourself. Because you are your hardest critic. That's not good enough. There's a lot of that's not good enoughs in a day. And the only good enough you get when you win something. And even sometimes you win something and you didn't win it by enough or good enough, you still ain't happy. Think about all the races that I've won and gone on pissed off. God, that wasn't fast enough. That wasn't this enough. That wasn't that enough. This needed to be better. So it's not necessarily a positive reality as an athlete.
You're right, mate. And I think a lot of that gets tied into your self-worth. I remember being like in my mid-20s and being like, I want to buy those trainers, but I can only do that if I win. Otherwise, I've not earned them. And which is crazy. But genuinely, that was a conversation I was having in my head. And if I would buy them after I'd not done well, I'd feel awful about it. Like, I didn't earn them. I didn't deserve them.
Because in sport, you are... the number, what you are, is your value. If you're ranked number 1 in the country or number 1 in the world, brilliant, your value is high today. But when you're supposed to be ranked number 1 and actually number 10 and number 12, you don't walk around the same, you don't look the same, your jokes ain't the same, you're not the same amount of happy, you're not the same. Things affect you differently because you're not that valuable anymore. From one day to the next day, you are now actually unvaluable. And now you need to pull your socks up. And like, nothing's really changed. But that is just the reality that we live in. I see my son, he'll come home from a football match, and if it didn't go the way he wanted, or if he didn't get the feedback he wanted, you're not seeing him. He's gone back to his bedroom. He's locked himself in. He's not trying to communicate. He's just trying to recover from whatever it is he's probably giving himself, to be fair. You know, and that is sport, and that's what makes great athletes great. But it's also what tears us down mentally to some extent, because it can't always be great. But that's what we strive for. we strive for only, I don't want no shit days, I want good days only.
How tough was it, Joel, when your coach came to you and said, look, Joel, I think going into bobsleigh here, this is a good option for you? I imagine that there's like an element of having to park your ego and go, actually, logically, this is a good thing for me to do, and this is maybe the right path, and this is a smart decision. But I imagine that's still a challenging thing to do, because you know, you want to be a sprinter. So to then go to this, you're thinking, I can do that. But then becoming a professional bobslayer, getting funded, how much did that take the pressure off when you went into the summer season and then sprinting?
Yeah, no, it changed my whole mindset. But my ego was already gone. At that point, I was already a bit broken in the sense of that I never put myself up there. So I would never, this is me, I'm here. I would always be here. And obviously I trained with a group of superstars anyway. So there was a pecking order already. I knew I was the runt of the litter. I knew what it was. So when he said it, it was probably more having difficult conversations with my family. Okay. Because my mum is someone who believes in me wholly. She'll be like, you go and do whatever. And she's very much like that. She'd back me to whenever. But I think when it was time for me to go, I says, well, you know, I spoke to my wife and she's like, sure. I says, yeah, I'll see what I'm going to do. And spoke to my mum. She was a bit upset. But ultimately, I'll go and get it done. But I think when I got funding and when there was some glimmer of success and there was something for me to go, again, well done. It changed everything for me. So I went back to the track and I was like, yeah, you know, 10 kilos heavier, bitches. Like, who wants some? Like, I actually felt much better about myself. And I then I wasn't even bothered. I was no longer competing for your acceptance. I'm already accepted. This is now a side hustle. This is for a jolly. If I win, you're shit. Because I'm a bobsledder. Then that's what happened. I'm like, mate, I don't even care what you think anymore.
What did you learn, Joel, from gaining some success in bobsleigh and winning medals? What did you learn about being successful there that you then feel like you were able to 2 years later when you break that break that 10 seconds in 100 meters? What did you learn from not necessarily the bobsleighing and the art of that sport, but just about winning medals, getting some success that you could then translate into sprinting that helped you run that time?
I think it was more about knowing that you're good enough. It was about me, because when I was in bobsleigh, I was the quickest sort of Winter Olympian in history. In bobsleigh, I was so valued. I'm like, you know, I'm running times that no bobsleighers ran before. So it was almost like the whole bobsleigh community supported me. So when they see me on TV, I'm getting message from bobsleighers going, you know, you put in us. So for me, it was a massive enjoyment. But when it came to like competing against track and field athletes, I knew that they're fragile. Like, because bobsleigh is basically, I warm up in a car park to compete in an Olympics. It's snowy, it's wet, it's free, like minus flipping 30 sometimes, minus 20. Absolutely freezing. You're cold. Your surroundings isn't like, nothing's easy. You've been working all day. You're carrying sleds around. But then if there's a little bit of rain, I could see the track athletes starting to falter, going, "Oh, it's gonna be a bad day. It's not gonna be a good day today, or this is not gonna be a good, or that's not gonna be good." So they'd quickly start to falter. So I'd be like, "All right, if this is the trials, let it rain." Let it be cold. Just make them uncomfortable, because I know straight away certain mindsets are beaten. I don't even have to beat you anymore. The weather, the wind blowing toward your face was enough for you to go, I can't run fast today. And I knew there was much more to it than that. I knew there was much more to me than that. And I think it just gave me that real knowing that I could perform in anything. It didn't matter. And even when I was running well, I'm running exactly the same time in like all over the world. Like I'm running like literally the same times everywhere. And people are like, how are you doing that? As well, because for one, I know how to do it. And two, I don't need everything to align for me to do it. I know what I'm doing, and I've been in. These are brilliant. Like, I remember like the commentator going, "Oh, it's a cool evening. It's 21 degrees," and I'm like, I was racing in -21 a month ago. This is lovely. Like, but for them, that's enough for them to break them. So I think for me, it just gave me this real kind of a real toughness and a real grit, and I'd probably call them pussies quite a lot. I'd be looking at it thinking, look at you, mate. Oh, mate. I just start barking and stuff. They'd be all scared and that. Like, just do this random stuff because it was my world was so much tougher than theirs. So much tougher. And even like with like every now and again, like your competitor, but because he's nervous, he'd come and start talking like, "Oh, it's cold today, isn't it?" Piss off. Like, what are you talking to me for on your bike, mate? Like, is it cold or is it warm? Jog on. Like, but it was just that kind of like, and even like the people that did bobsleighing were tougher people. Then track is like big ego sport. But they're all a bit gentle, really. I ain't gonna lie to you, they're all a bit gentle. There's only a few that are like,
they're really about
that properly. Yeah. And that era sort of died off, where it was the Morris Greens and the Linford Christies, and it was, and everybody was a big meathead, and it was a bit aggressive and a little bit scary. It's all gone now. Everybody's all like dandelions dancing on the line and that. Like, for me, I'm like, oh, it's light work, lovely. Yeah.
What was it like, Joel, lining up to race at the 2014 Winter Olympic Games in Sochi? It's hard for somebody that doesn't. The Winter Olympics, ultimately, we get the opportunity to watch it for most people once every 4 years. It's very hard not to think of cool run-ins. And I know that's a stereotype, but, the way you described doing that race in New York, my brain is straight away
it's rough,
seeing that. But what was it like in that moment? You're getting ready to race. I can't imagine it's not surreal. And you maybe have a split second where you're like, is this, I feel out of place, but... What then is it like to go down?
I had the best team with me for that, because those guys were all in the sport a little bit longer than me. So I was with Bruce Tasker, who me and him went on to do loads of things together. Stuart Benson, who was in the Air Force, and then John Jackson, who was a Royal Marine Commando. So these guys whipped me into shape, to be fair, because driver is normally the head of the team, and he was a Royal Marine Commando, and I'm not. I'm from Cov. Yeah, so that was like, he's like, if you're on time, you're late. That kind of thing. Your room's tidy. This is what we're doing. He'll have like a spreadsheet. And I'm going, I come from track and field. Like, I do my own thing. I get ready when I want. But all of a sudden, it was like, this is what we do. And they gave me a real discipline for a start. Like, in terms of like, this is how you respect your teammates. This is how you keep your driver happy. This is the number one. If he drives well, we win races. And if he drives shit, doesn't matter how fast we push, we're not going to win anything. So we had a real like disciplined team. So when we turned up at the Olympics, right, and we weren't there for the opening ceremony. We went off and went to like a holding camp in Germany when everybody was doing the Olympic stuff. We're seeing the phones and, they did like all this stuff. And we rocked up, and 4-man bobsleigh is the last event. So we literally rocked up the last couple of days of the Olympics. And then we had a couple of training runs, which we absolutely just destroyed everybody straight away. Like, we came in, it was an Olympics for a week. As far as we can concerned, we like went in there, we're pushing the fastest, we're going down the fastest. We knew what we were capable of. And by the time we got to the line, I think at this point, we knew we were the dog's bollocks. Like, I knew I had probably the best driver in the world at that point. I knew my teammates around me, and we had like really competitive selection. We had all these like sprinters coming in. We had like Craig Pickering and other guys coming in trying to take our places. But it was just the same 4 buds who were getting smashed up. Like, before, because funding comes to a sport, all of a sudden sports, everyone's in now. Before it wasn't there. So when the funding came in, a lot of athletes came in. They want to do bobsleigh as well. They want some funding. They want whatever. But we managed to stick it out as a team. So we beat all these athletes, and we were still there together. And we just knew individually we were the best in the world at our job. So we were like, we thought we would win. Honestly, we thought we could win, but we started quite far down the rankings. So we started in 10th. And then we were like, next day we were 8th. The next run we were 6th, and we had to like really cut ourselves through to get to where we got. But no, I think at that point, the best team in the world. There was not one, because teams have like problems and character. There was absolutely nothing. Like, everybody knew what it was. Everybody had love for each other. Everyone had respect for what the other person brought to the table, and we all knew that there was no better person to be in each position that we were in. So it did make a proper winning formula. And if that year, the driver snapped his Achilles, our driver, so he had surgery 9 months before the Olympics and still had to push it and get in. And if he didn't snap his Achilles, we would have definitely won. But the fact that he snapped his Achilles, like Achilles surgery takes like 18 months, 2 years to come back from. He came back in 9 months and we still won an Olympic medal. It was already like, we overdone ourselves. Mm-hmm. We achieved more than ranked 10th, and we've come in and we've come third. That was more than what, and again, for my brain, I've gone, yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do.
And when you're going down, you're in that bobsleigh, you're in the Olympics. Yeah. What are you seeing?
No, I'm not seeing anything.
I'm feeling
so I can feel every mistake that the driver makes. So because I'm sitting and I'm sitting in the back, but I've got the two bits that come out the side. They're next to me. So if they hit a wall or if I'm skidding, I can feel it and I can see it. So, and I think over the 4 runs, which was like worked out about 6 miles altogether, I think I touched the wall, grazed the wall once. So he didn't make any mistakes. He's probably the most consistent driver there. And we ended up coming third by 11 hundredths of a second. So over 6 miles, coming third by that much. And remember, there's no engines, it's just all gravity and the way we sit and how we do things, because we have to stay really still, not like, because you're getting thrown about, and you're going into a corner, which is like a 90-degree bend at 100 miles an hour, you're like, like that. So he's trying to get all these things right. And yeah, so it was just about feeling what he's doing. And I'm sitting there going, come on, Jacko. We get around the corner and like, we're going to touch him. Like, oh, yes, go on, Jacko. We're just doing that. All of us are doing that. So even when we got to the bottom, we knew it was good.
And what's the difference between going that fast in an object and then running sub 10 seconds with just your body? Yeah. And what was that like, mate, when you ran that time, the fastest time that you ran in your career? Yeah. What does that feel like? Is it something where 10 seconds is such a short space of time? I imagine you're not really thinking much.
I was definitely thinking. So because I am such a process-driven athlete. So this is what happened, right? I knew I'm in good shape, and there's things I can change to run faster, but they potentially are. They can like make you mess up. Right, so I'm like, okay. So I've done. I had 3 runs that day, and I did my first run, and I said, okay, I need this run to be solid, so I can set my mind up. So a lot of the time, you see people running heats, and they'll just run slow or whatever they need to run. But I can't go and run slow and then expect to run fast in an hour. That won't work for me. So I set myself up properly, and I sort of went out, and I think this was it was like the England Championships. So in the first round, I ran like 10-1-0. And I was like, okay, solid, good. You've backed up yourself. Because I was already running fast a couple of times. But people are like, you're not really going to run fast when it matters. So I had to go, okay, boom, there's a fast time. I've ran it. And then for the next round, again, I'm running by myself. No one's near me. And I'm like, okay, we need to run faster now. So let's see what you got. Just empty the tank. Let's see what's in there. And I ran like 10:02. And then I said, okay, 10:02 is so close to sub 10. What difference can I make to now go sub 10? So I did something where I put my blocks in like a really aggressive angle. So when I start, a bit like a jumbo jet, like I'm going to be like really forward, but you got the risk of stumbling, you got the risk of not coming up right, you got the risk of tripping up, like all these things. So I remember like the gun went and I've started running and then my head's going, I think you've ballsed this up. I don't know if you're going to get out of this position, but I'm running. And as I sort of come up and I'm out of the position, I've gone, you're out. you've done it. Okay, run. So then I start running. So you literally see on the race, I start pulling away. And then I was like, when it came up, and I think it came up at 9.98, but in the end it was rounded down to 9.96. It came up and I looked at it and I thought, yeah, you did that. Like, that wasn't a case of that. It just happened by freak. You went out and did that and made the changes in the day to get that done. So when I did that, I was like, I could teach anyone to do anything. Literally, I remember being so grateful because I've gone more than the time being fast, and yes, that's a big deal. I've just proven to myself that there's a system behind doing things, and if there is a way to get things done, and it isn't just, the stars didn't align. I lined those up myself.
When someone runs a time that is somewhat of an anomaly, is that when the stars do just all align and they're able to just run a fast time? And it happens maybe once in your career?
Yeah, I think some people do have that, have where they just do. But again, for me, that shows like a little bit of lack of knowledge of why you ran fast. It does show because I feel like people have a happy window. Like you have 2-3 years where you don't know where that's going to come, but this is your window to get something out. But I do believe within that time, and within that 2-3 years, you should be able to replicate some very good times. You shouldn't be able to just do it once. You should be able to get close to it a few times within that window. And I think sometimes when you just do it once, it means that you didn't really know what you did, or there wasn't really a system behind it. It just happened. And I think when you see athletes, they'll, there's not many, but they can run 3 years in a row. They'll go out and still maybe run, or go 1 year and run sub 10 a few times. You go, this guy knows what he's doing. So I think that for some athletes there's an element of stars aligned, but I think for many of them now, especially because there's so much more information available, I think you can line them up yourself a little bit, or because I feel like we should be in a position, and I speak to footballers about this all the time. You can't just wake up and be not where you want to be and accept it. You have to have some kind of system to get myself back to this happy window. Like, okay, this is where I am right now, but I've got a game in 3 days' time. How do I get here? And having that kind of understanding of yourself, not just leaving it to which way the wind blows to see if you're going to be good or not. Like, that's not a professional athlete.
Yeah, I remember being probably late 20s, and there was a day where I was training on the pommel horse, and I did like a prep skill, and I said to my coach, I know this is the right thing to do, but I don't fundamentally understand why it's the right thing to do. And he was like, now you're starting to think like a coach. And that's maybe the difference, right? You just, when you're young and you're an athlete, or maybe you have no aspirations of really understanding what you're doing, you just go. But then once you hit a hurdle, you're kind of like...
or when you start to plateau. And you go, why can't I get faster? Every year I get faster. This year I can't get faster. What am I doing? Or why was I faster last year? What did I do differently? What was I doing? You must have been doing something differently. There must be a reason. Can you find it? And just being able to find that. And when you start doing that, it's a bit of because the more you know, the harder it is to be a naive athlete and just do things. Like, the more you know,
you can over-process, right? And then you're starting to think about, you understand everything that can go wrong. There were times when I was training and I'd look at other people and be like, you're not having the same conversation inside your head I am. You're just going. Whereas I'm thinking about every possible outcome. And
literally, I'm like, it's 1 step, 2 step, and what it is. And we have, like I said, I work with Johnny Peacock. We have those same conversations every day, where it's like, I used to do this without thinking. And now I'm thinking about what I did then, or how did I do that, or what was the process to get to that.
And then I think you maybe spend the rest of your career trying to get out your own way. And get into that flow state again, and turn it off and switch it off.
So I've never been able to sort of master that. Like, I remember getting to a point of going, you know too much, mate. You know too much. Like, in terms of being able to get the amount of hard work that's required, being able to just follow the process without thinking about the process overly, that day is gone for me. Because you can't just talk shit to me and be like, okay, I have to know why, and I have to understand why. But as a 23-year-old, I didn't. You said, do this. Okay, I'm doing it with all of my might, But now I'm like, why am I doing that? Why would I do that? Why does that make sense? Why? So, there is this balance, but I do think you get to a point where you know so much, You wish you knew less.
Joe, I remember being about 21,
Go on.
and at the time I was on an intensive rehab for my left ankle. I subfluxed it and snapped all the ligaments in that ankle and had surgery on it. And the guy that was doing my S&C, he was from Sport of Athletics. Okay. His name's Rudy, brilliant guy. And at the time I read a book, and it's like my favourite sports book I've ever read. It's called The Dirtiest Race in History.
Okay, yeah.
It's about the 1988 Olympic 100-metre final. And I started to like get really into like sprinting and the history of it. And I came back into the gym and I went, Rudy, why are people like cheating? Like, what is it? And why are they cheating very young? And he said, look, what you've got to understand, Sam, is that if you can run a time at 18, 19... once your muscles have felt that time and ran at that time, you can serve your ban and get back to it without the drugs in. And I was like, what? And it blew my mind. And so my question to you, Joel, is that you're in a sport where there is constantly questions around people and athletes, and I know there's been a lot of that in bobsleigh too. I'm seeing lots of young lads now going to the gym, and I'm looking at them and going, your body doesn't look quite right. It's not shaped. It's not like shaped in the right way.
That's not normal.
And I think a lot of young kids are taking, are definitely on stuff. How prevalent is it in a sport like athletics, and how easy is it? You know, is it a case of just knowing a guy that knows a guy, and if you want to, you can find it from anywhere? Is it because athletics is very much a sport that is almost, it takes place a lot at universities, so there's easy access. I guess just what's your perspective of someone that's competed in at a very high level in a sport that is very well known for that, and why you think guys take that risk?
Oh, mate. Well, I mean, the same.
And is it money? Does it come down to that?
Same as everyone. I think when you are young and you are naive, like, so I'm lucky. I had good people around me. Like, these guys were all drug-tested athletes. They were all good people around me. So, for one, it's not like I wasn't surrounded by people doing this kind of thing or having those conversations. Like, my knowledge of it was zero. Like, I wouldn't know I wouldn't know where to start in that space. So I think what you like, but if, for example, if I stayed in Coventry and I continued to get good and you go into the gyms and whatever, that's now a different environment. Me as a young athlete, you need to take this, mate, or you need to do this, or I literally would have no idea as a young athlete. But I guess I never wanted to be good like that. Like, I never wanted to be, it wasn't like a desperation to be good like that. And I think sometimes it is that, like, athletes are like, they want to be the best they can be. And I think bad people around them, and he's talking to a lot of young, desperate athletes. You can talk, like, even now as a coach, right? I could talk an athlete into doing all kind of random stuff. Just like how you look at Instagram, you got them doing all kind of mad exercises and all these mad things. It's no different. Like, you're just selling them the dream almost. This is what they do. This is what these do. So for me, I feel like it's a real shame. And I really feel like people that expose athletes to this at such a young age, because they even though they can get back, they never really get back, you know. If you look at, like, the collegiate system in America, these men are running, everybody runs sub 10 at 18, but nobody runs it at 22. Like, it's not possible. They get pro, get a big night contract, and then they're shit. And they just they never go back to that. Where was that kid? Where did he come from? Where has he gone?
I guess just like from a self-confidence standpoint, if you're always thinking, oh, it was because of that, it wasn't you, was it?
Yeah, so, again, there'd be that, and that I don't think that would aid you at all. And again, in terms of, like,
what advantage do you have if you are taking steroids or you're on EPO?
You would recover.
You can out-train people.
Recover, you'd recover, and that doesn't guarantee you're going to be successful. But it guarantees that you're going to be able to make a line. And a lot of track and field athletes, like, half of the sport is done by the time the summer comes because they're all injured. Because the workload is massive. The amount of footsteps that they take, the amount of impacts, the amount of training sessions they put their body through. And again, you know, because it's an individual sport, a man will grind himself into dust trying to beat his teammate. Like, it's trying to beat his training partner. He'll do everything. If you're doing it, I'm doing it twice. And that's the kind of mentality that is sort of in that kind of, especially when it's like, you work hard, you work hard, if they're sleeping, you be awake, all this shit, but you just to get injured, mate. You only got 4 hours sleep for the last month, mate. You're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So for me, it would be the case of that you can recover. You can go out and you can, and like, I lost a lot of years being injured. You've lost a lot of years being injured. Imagine you didn't have them years being injured. You just kept getting up and up and up and up and up. And you get to put training session to get you fresh every day. Imagine being not in pain.
Yeah.
I remember walking around Morrison's thinking there's no way I'm an athlete with my basket going. I can't even hold my back sore, my feet are sore, my knees are, because you smash us, like the body's not really made for that. So what we do is unnatural. So that's like unnatural support, isn't it? You go out and you can be fresh every day and your body can cope. But for me, I think it's a shame. It's a shame. Like, I hate to see like young athletes getting done so soon, but also like, and then you get athletes that get done and then they're like, my supplements were contaminated or this was contaminated. I'm like,
can you tell?
I don't know.
Can you see an athlete and go, yeah, something's not right there?
Wow, you see, you know what? More you see like big progression jumps.
It's more that like,
you see
that
like,
doesn't make sense how quickly you've
and I
improved.
think sometimes, you see like big progression jumps or big consistent progression, like breakthrough. And then, you like have a bit of time where your body's learning to cope at that level and another. But when you just go, doop, 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 people just going up and up and up, you think, but in athletics, it's definitely in Britain, it doesn't last long. Like, you ain't cheating for a long time and getting away with it because we are very, very strict. I mean, there's been times where I've been tested like 3 times in 1 week. Like, so it's not, they're not trying to, they are trying to out you as soon as possible. You're not getting
It's
away
interesting, isn't it? Because, different cultures and different countries
of course.
have such a different
Of course.
perspective
Well,
on that.
look at Russia. I was in Sochi when all that madness was going on, and they're doing the other way. They're trying, let us not get caught. We're going to work with you to make sure you don't get caught because they're convinced everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
So you talk to a Russian athlete, he'll be like, that's what everyone does.
Yeah.
I'll be like, well, no, they don't on my street. You know what I mean?
Culture's almost like they think it's funny that you don't cheat.
Yeah.
They're like, why wouldn't you cheat? Like, which is, it's so alien, I think. And I think people, particularly general public, they see athletes cheated and they jump straight to, what a bad guy. Yeah. But it's never that black and white. It's very complicated. And we had an athlete in gymnastics that was one of the best in the world. He came the closest to beating the greatest of all time. And I'd said for years, this guy's cheating. There's no way. I was like, there's no way he can compete that consistently that many times in a year.
That's what I was... And
get to the start line that many times. I was like, no, I've been at that level. Yeah. And when I was at that level, I was like, you can't sustain this for a long period of time. Like, it's too much to be up there. Yeah. And he was there for like 5 or 6 years. And then eventually he got caught. And, but I know that culture, having had a Russian coach.
Was he Russian?
My coach was Russian, yeah.
Who was the athlete Russian as well?
He was Ukrainian, the athlete.
Okay.
And my coach had told me that when he was going to the Russian National Training Centre, he was given like a petri dish with like 6 tablets. He got no idea what they were, just for breakfast. Like, but that's just that culture. I think it's hard for us here in the West to get our head around that. But the reality is that we're still... That is still going on.
We've seen like, remember when like Dwayne Chambers got in his ban and like the world turned against him and I think he tried to be the honest. So he said, okay, this is what I did. He got caught. Yeah. So he did get caught. But then he told the story on how, because he was a young man when he got caught. He was like 21 or something. And it was frowned upon more. He was better off saying it was in his Weetabix. Yeah. It would have been better for him. He's gone, okay, hands up. This is what I've done. This is what I thought. I was told everybody was doing this. This is what I did. They've gone, you're not getting 2 years, you're getting 4 years. Yeah. And now we're booing you every stadium we come to. Yeah. So it was like, it ended up being worse where...
Yeah, and these are such young people, right? Like, the aftercare, I imagine it's a see you later, you're done.
Him getting back from that was probably, for himself, and like... For himself was probably one of the best things that he'd done, regardless of the fact that he came out, he won the Europeans, broke the British record, came out and did some amazing things, but he did it all taboos from his own nation. Yeah. People protesting against him going to the Olympics and stuff like that. Because he still went to 2012, but they did not want him there, and that would have been rough. Because again, he'd have been still in his 20s, and I'm like, that's a young person, and I think like the thing is with sport is they don't value age. So if you go to and you're a footballer and you're 19, 20, 21 and you just make a bad choice as 21-year-olds do, you will get crucified with no hesitation. And like that's someone's child. It could be our child. Do you know what I mean? They're like young people coming up, but they have in sport, there's no remorse. You are the property of the land.
It's a fickle landscape,
and it is fickle as well, because you could be a hero. I tell my son, I'm like, mate, you be a hero today, but tomorrow, mate, flipping out, they'll be in the chopper.
Yeah, we're doing a documentary at the minute on like one of my heroes when I was a kid, like a German gymnast. He went all the way he had like the perfect Olympic career. So at 16 he made the final.
Wow.
2008 bronze, silver, gold.
Wow, he did it like that. That's lovely. Yeah, that's a lovely like.
It's a nice story.
Yeah,
right?
It's a nice spread on your wall as well, isn't it?
His dad says the same thing. He says, for the media, you're either the over king, or you're down in the dirt, and there is nothing in the middle. And so learning that early is really, really important. It's very valuable. Well, tell me about the state of British athletics now, Joel. Do we have a lot of talent coming through?
The state of it now.
We had for me, I look back at 2012 as being like kind of like a golden time where there was a lot of money going around, a lot of funding. There was this big push. There was the legacy. And I do wonder, like, how long can that continue or last? But we seem to always outperform our size as a nation at the Olympic Games.
So, like, we've got a lot of, like, in terms of sprinting, I was the third quickest British person in history. But over the time, there's been a lot of sub-10 sprinters from the UK. But a lot have changed. Like, they got new tracks and spikes and things that they are better. So that people are getting faster, but you're wondering, okay, are these all faster because conditions now are made to make people faster, or are they actually better now than they used to be? Because on paper, like we should be winning an Olympic, at least relay medal every year. We should have 1 or 2 finalists. So it should be good, but you just never know, because I think athletics is such a sport where when you see people like Jessica Ennis and Mo Farah, they are the complete circle. And there may be one of 5 complete circles in their discipline in the world. And they can go out and perform on these big stages. They can soak up all the pressure. They do their best things in the most toughest environments. And it's such a big part of having Olympic success, because you ain't getting another go at it. Like, you literally, if you go to an Olympics, and a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to do better at my next one. No next one, mate. It's this one. There's no next one. Like, a lot of people just go to one. There's no another one for you. There's no guaranteed you're going to be. I've came here now, so now I'm going to get a medal. You're not even there. Because things move on so fast, and you know how sport is, it goes through its ups and downs. And I think really the athletes that can seize those opportunities are few and far between. But we do look after our athletes, and we do the best, and we get like psychologists, and we've got some of the best physios, and we've got some great mentors, and we pull in people from all over the world. So we do get the best out of who we have. But in terms of the ones that's going to bring home medals, I think, there's a lot of new guys on the block, so we'll see. We'll see. We've got some great women sprinters right now. They always perform relay-wise. The lads got a medal in the last Olympics, but it's never been before that, not for a long time. So we'll see. But I think it's something that. I'll tell you, like, we've got world champs later on this year. I'll let you know then.
We'll touch base.
We'll let you know then.
It's going to be exciting, right? LA Olympics.
Oh, mate, come on.
Everyone wants a ticket on that plane.
Come on, that's going to be a special one. Snoop Dogg's going to be there. Snoop Dogg, you do it? Snoop Dogg's going to be there, mate. I want to come out of retirement when Snoopy was coming.
And then you have Sprint, the Netflix documentary that's doing a great job for the sport. It's introducing a lot of people to those names. It's growing the sport.
And it's like, that's how I started watching Formula One, is through Drive to Survive, and watching that, and you get that. You you start to know the characters, and that's who you fall in love with. So I love that they're doing that with the sprinters as well, and having you understand them differently. You know their parents. That changes things, don't it? And know, like, you know about them, where they live and stuff like that. Changes things quite a lot, so that's quite cool.
Yeah, as a sports fan, man, I can't wait for the LA Olympics. I think it's just going to be everything American is supersized, isn't it?
Yeah,
so it's just going to be like,
it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible.
Amazing.
To finish off, Joel,
Go on.
how important was becoming a dad in your life while you were still an athlete?
Yeah.
And how much did that help you make more logical decisions rather than maybe decisions that were driven by emotion? Because, you know, at that moment, I became a dad 16 months ago, and overnight my perspective completely shifted, and I'm then providing and looking after 2 other human beings. And I imagine that's probably helped you make those decisions, like going into bobsleigh. And I look at you as somebody that, like, has squeezed the most juice out of their orange, is very good when it comes to, you know, I've been around you, you're an incredible communicator. It sounds like you were able to always find sponsors, to people to support your career, get them on board. And what role did that play in your life, mate?
I think one thing is having my son young, so my oldest son, having him young, it made me accountable. So there was every morning I woke up, it wasn't just about me. So whether I'm injured or I'm fit or I'm tired or I'm whatever I am, wherever I am, it made me accountable. So it made me accountable for every single day, because it wasn't my day. It wasn't my time I was wasting. That was his time. I'm wasting your time. So that's one thing that made me, like, really sort of lock in. Like, I moved to Loughborough and then my wife had a son. So we all moved to Loughborough so that I could do, if I needed to do rehab, I was never travelling. I said, listen, we're just going to be here, and we are all, I'm not an athlete, we are athletes, and we're doing this together. So if I'm on a diet, you're on a diet. If I'm like, it was just literally like that, we sort of stuck it out like that. And, you know, and it was like everything that I needed to do in terms of training based, like my wife would support me in that, nutrition, whatever, like we were getting this done. And even when it was like moving to bobsleigh, it was like we sat down and we were like, okay, this is a way that we can provide and still continue to do sport and potentially make another networking situation for us. I probably wouldn't have done that if I didn't have a son. I wouldn't have done that. And again, it made me so much more cutthroat, because if it wasn't good for me and my family, I'm just not doing it. So it doesn't matter if the lads are going out or if it's this or it's that. I was like, listen, it's not good for this, so I'm not involved. And it made me sleep at night, every night, 9 o'clock. It just made me so... I did not want to waste his time. Like, my dad was such a hard-working guy, and he showed me the power of hard work, and anything that I ever needed, he was able to provide it for me. And I didn't want to be the one that couldn't. So I was like, we're locking in. You know, and I guess I'm still like that now. Like, I guess the reason why I retired early is because I've travelled a lot. But now my kids need me home. I don't need to be doing this. Now I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for them. And it also changed the sport. Like, as soon as I ran sub-10 and I had an Olympic medal and I've done all these things, my brain started changing, going, okay, how are we going to turn that into something else? We can't do this forever. How can we create a situation where we can use it to continue to provide and continue to do what I do and continue to love what I do, but actually make it about my children, give them time, I can grow them, I can teach them, I can show them. And it's made me do very well outside of sport, because I can't waste my time, because they're looking at me like, Dad, you know, this is what, and my son's big now, he's a big 15-year-old boy, and I look at him and think, it all started with you coming, me going, okay, it's different now, you know, this is not a hobby, this is his life. You know,
amazing, mate. It's an amazing story, an amazing journey. What are your plans moving forward, Joel? I know that you do lots of work. You work with British athletics, you work with young sprinters, you work with football teams. I guess sprinting is something that's transferable to so many sports. You know, I told you straight away, you've got to get into gymnastics, man, because you see gymnasts run and it looks so unconventional.
I do need to. I think for me, so me and my wife, like we both run a few businesses between us. Like, we do a talking business. She has a nursery. I do a lot of schools and do schools for myself, and then I do coaching separately, and then I work with clubs separately as well. It's probably we're looking at funneling it all into one thing. So she's gonna maybe close up her nursery this year, and we'll just focus on the big ticket items and be able to spend more time together as a family and less time apart. I think my family is like probably been my greatest gift, and I do feel for women in sport that have to choose between having a family and having sport, where I've retired and I've come into a fully functioning family of 6, which is an amazing thing to be able to do. And it's probably, when I look at them, I was like, you guys are my biggest achievement. Like, everything else is great, but I think when we are together as a family, it's, you know, you can't really put a price on it. Like, people look at you and say, what an amazing thing this is, and how lucky are you guys. So I'm always reminded of, although I want this, and this, actually what I really need and want the most, I already kind of got it. So I am fortunate in that respect.
Yeah, that's amazing, mate. And I think the one thing that I do now, I'm a little bit older and I've started my own family, is I look back at gymnastics and go, gymnastics gave me such a gift, because what we have now and what we've built has all been made possible through that.
Imagine there was no sport for us.
Yeah, exactly. And without those challenges and setbacks and the pain and all of that, you set that all to one side, I'd do it over again in a heartbeat, because that's given us the life that we have now, and I'm so grateful for that. And I think a lot of athletes retire resentful, angry, a lot of pain.
But you don't enjoy it though, do you?
No, you don't.
You don't enjoy the stuff.
But that's the
did.
journey of every
Isn't
athlete,
it?
I think. And it's that transition into retirement. You have to go through that. And
when you look back and you go, I did that.
Yeah.
You see yourself.
I still look at the Olympics and go, I was 19, man. I was so young. Was that even me? I can't really.
Well, was it you?
Yeah.
Was it? You know, it's been so long. Like, is that still me?
Yeah. And I'm proud of that person, that athlete, and what they did. And it's an amazing story, mate. It's been a pleasure to get to know you recently, and hopefully, our relationship continues. And who knows, maybe I can get you into a gymnastics gym, maybe working with the British guys.
I reckon that would be. Listen, I reckon you can teach me some stuff when you're ready to get an episode out and about and that, mate. I really want to learn how to do a backflip. To be fair,
I can teach you to do a backflip, mate.
Do you know what I mean?
It won't take long. I can teach you to do a backflip. You got to teach me how to get a bit faster.
All right, sounds
on
like
the
a deal,
football
mate.
pitch. Joel, legend, mate.
Thanks
Thank
for
you very
having
much.
me, mate. Thank you.